Good morning.
Hello.
How is everybody doing today? A bunch of stuff. Go here. There. So, okay. A couple things, bunch of things. Actually, let me go through this. Again, no AAA'z night this Wednesday. We'll have one. I think it's the 4th. So let's make sure that we grow that attendance. We've got the convention on the 15th of July. I'm really excited about that. We got things that are starting to come in from that. So we'll be working with everybody that's going, kind of coordinating and stuff like that. That's kind of the project this week, is to get our head around kind of that organizational structure a little bit more. This morning is going to be hopefully good. What we want to kind of chit chat about today is kind of recognizing where we are and what it is that we're doing. And so everyone have paper or something to write. So I'm going to ask some stuff, and we're going to kind of go through a variety of different things. And some of this we've done a bunch of, so you're like, we're going to do that again. But hopefully, look, everything I'm trying to do is to get us to look at things just a little bit differently, just a little bit understanding. Like, we are incredibly close with a lot of the stuff that we've been working on. And now it's, how do we convert it? How do we start building our teams? What is it that we're creating and stuff like that? So I want you to, for a little bit, I want you to forget about the lineup. I want you to forget about getting wide. I want you to forget about your bullpen and your hot, your now, and I want you to forget that we've ever talked about any of this other stuff, right? And I want you to think about, we're sitting at a restaurant, and we've been friends a long time, right? So Yadira, you, Victor, and I, like the three of us are just sitting at a restaurant, we're just talking. Or Elvira, we're just sitting talking. Or Damon, or like we're just, there's not a big party, it's just kind of there. And we're talking about opening a business, something you've dreamt about your whole life, right? I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a nail salon. I don't care if it's I don't care what it is. If it's a phone kit, whatever it is, like kind of where your like pre-Primerica interest was, right? And I'm like, and we're talking and we're drinking a little bit, right? And so, right, our beliefs growing, our enthusiasm is growing, our understanding that we're going to dominate the world is growing, like, because we have the greatest idea that no one in blank has ever thought of. Can you all picture this conversation? Okay. Now, a question is asked. The question is, if we're going to do this, who are the 5 people to 10 people we need in our corner in each of our lives in order to pull this off? Who's the support that we need? Who are the people that would be instrumental in either their relationships, their support, their money, their resources, their experience, their expertise, that we would go to and pitch our idea to for them to be in our corner? Right? Now you're 3 sheets to the wind, right? So some of your hesitations and reservations are gone. And so you're talking about what it is that we're trying to get created. right? We're talking about, right? And so I want you to just stare at your piece of paper for a second, and I want you to start thinking about the names. The people that if we were going to go build the business, right, open up the phone business, open up the real estate company, open up the political, whatever it is, who are the people that you're like, oh, I got to have that, like, we got to tell them this story. And just start writing. If there's one, there's one. If there's 50, there's 50. But who are those people that you're like, oh, these folks have to know what we're doing? There's a good chance I'm on that list. But I'm already at the dinner with you, so I don't need to be on it. We're sitting at a bar. We're sitting at a restaurant. We're drinking kamikaze shots, you know, Jaeger bombs, Long Island iced teas, sipping a nice Cabernet Sauvignon, whatever floats your boat. Talking about the future, about the fact that we have a shot. There's something in front of us. There's a moment in our life. We've been preparing for this at our jobs, at our works, our experiences. We came up with this unbelievable idea that can differentiate the dog grooming business, and we could do it on a national level. The differentiated the phone case business, the differentiated the dental business, the differentiate the pharmaceutical business. I don't care what the business is right this second. Sometimes we get so caught up on what the business is. I want you to be able to expand, right? If we're going to differentiate the HR business because there's a way to streamline the data processing that major companies just don't know, and we found a way to be able to do it, and we're going to create a consulting company. I don't care what it is, but there's something that just the level of enthusiasm is off the charts. You're drunk, so it's easier to be that much more enthusiastic, right? But the reason why being a little buzzed is valuable is the resident, oh, my uncle, man, right? He makes $20 million. Like, when you're drunk, you'll go see your rich uncle. When you're sober, you're like, oh, I'm not seeing my rich uncle. He wouldn't want to talk to me. But when you're drunk, you got a really good idea. You're like, oh, he's the first person we're calling. And we've got to get that creativity out. What is it? What's that experience? Right? We've all, if you've had a job, I truly believe if you're in this room, you've had a moment where you went, oh my God, we could totally do this and it would change everything. We could open up our own business. We could create this, whatever it is. Okay? So put some names down. Who would you want in your life? Who would you want in your corner? Who would you want to run the idea by? when you look at that list, what would you want from them when you were talking? How would you communicate? What would the goal be for every conversation? Right? You're not getting them to buy anything because they're not doing what you're talking about. You're not getting them to necessarily join anything because you're starting this. So what's the purpose of sharing? What are the 2 or 3 things you'd be looking for from those conversations? Some might be capital. Maybe you're like, oh God, my rich uncle, I need them to fund it. Great. Some might be support. Some might be clarity. Some are really good organizers. Some are really good. Some are really good at flushing out a message. Some are really good communicators. Some are really good networkers. Some have really good support system. What are their values? Here's my question. First of all, how many of you have surprised yourself in the last couple of minutes with some of the things you're writing down and some of the things that you're thinking about? Any of you surprising yourself? Okay. What is it that's created the surprise? There's got to be a verb for it, but the surprise. What about what you're thinking is surprising? Can you put words to it? Anything?
The people I have on my list, I thought about them in a way of business. Some of them are good with their businesses, their work, their organizational, their networking is huge. Whereas before, I mean, I wouldn't think of them that way, but if I really think about their lives, they have these traits.
Anyone else?
When I said I have, I feel like I never realized there's something in them that I might need, or now I'm viewing that I could have thought about it before that way. Even they're my immediate family, I never thought about, oh, they have a little tool for me right there.
Anything else? Anyone else?
Just thinking about what their values are. Didn't really think about that before.
I think like the connections, like I have some people, I'm like, hey, they know a lot of people. Like if they were in my corner, they know how many people can put me in front of. And in the back of my mind, I know that just may not take that money. They know a lot of people.
So my question is, what's different between the idea of sitting in a bar, sitting in a restaurant, dreaming about an opportunity, dreaming about opening a business, dreaming about and going, we want, and your Primerica business? Now, I know a couple differences. One, financial services wasn't what I don't think any of us would sit in a bar and dream about based on our experiences. And so it's easy to think I'm doing Primerica, but I'm not creating a business. The same as if we're sitting there, like I've had those conversations, right? I had them when I was 17 years old. I had them when I was 21. I've had them and I've had them in the last 5 years. Where we're sitting around and we're dreaming and talking. And what about and creating something from scratch? There's a beauty to it. Running something, there's more organization to it. There's more structure. There's more. Okay, here's something I'm doing. So that could be a difference. But the other thing is that we might not know what we're actually doing. And we're going to come back. We're going to spend some time on this list in a little bit. We got a bunch of things. So today's going to be, I'm going to be careening from side to side today. There's a theme, but this might be one of those. You know, you see at the end of the movie, and you're like, oh my God, he was wearing the same blue shirt the entire time, right? In terms of many of you guys are Sixth Sense fans. But so I sat back and I went, okay, wait a second here. What's going on? And I realized in talking with a lot of us that when we work with our bullpen and our now list and our then list, that one of the biggest dilemmas is this: what are we actually creating? And so when I go back to we're sitting in a bar, we're having a nice dinner, you're frustrated and excited, right? You're running the department and you're like, oh my God, I've been to 3 different companies and I've organized this, and there's a way to streamline the distribution of supplies. You're like, oh my God, if we did this, or I did this, if we created this, man, we could create an app, or we could create a company, or whatever, man. If we could sell it to our company, and we could sell it to every other company that has these and so we could make millions of dollars. We've all had those conversations or dreams at some point, right? Victor, you sat in a place and you're like, oh my God, I could streamline something, I could make this so much better, and if everybody just bought this, they would be better and I would be rich. Have you had that story? Yeah. Okay, we all have. And if you haven't, it's coming. And if you haven't, you got but the question becomes, if that was what we were talking about, and then you looked at these most important people in our lives and said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm not trying to recruit any of them. Right? Look at your list. If you were going to open up the blank distribution blankety blank, would you recruit them to become your wholesalers or your distribution team? Is that why you made that list? Would they become your clients? Are they all going to be the ones that are buying your human resources algorithm processing to make sure that it's streamlined? And you found a way to fire people and not have them mad, right? And you're like, oh my God, I've learned that here's the conversation and here's the support and here's the guidance, and there's an entire protocol to firing somebody. Could you imagine if someone could invent a clean, you're fired system with a technology platform that could go through and all their stuff could be magically delivered to the house and it didn't have to go? Like, Cindy, could you imagine how many people you have to go through? And you're like, oh my God, if we could get this into every major corporation, everyone would be fired easier and you'd be rich. How many of you would like to invent that and figure out how to do that? That's a pretty badass idea, right? And so you said, okay, I got it. We figured it out. Now we got to go into business. Who are the people that I'd want to pick their brains? Who are the people that I'd want to share their ideas? Who are the people that I'd want to be able to be very clear with, that I'd want in my corner? So now we got that list. Now the second list is, how would we talk to them? Would we need them all to completely buy into everything you're doing from day one? No, some of their value is critical thought process. Some of their value is asking tough questions. Some of their process is, right, developing, right, asking hard and uncomfortable questions. But if you get clear and understood and those questions came in and we learned to answer them, wouldn't you be better as an owner? And once they understood that those answers were in place, wouldn't they be stronger in your corner? Why? Because ultimately you're building the support system. Because if you knew somebody that was in, they were a director of human resources, and you developed this, if they took your plan and put it in their companies and it failed, that's going to affect them, right or wrong. But if they asked you the questions and you did your due diligence and you went back and you answered it and you satisfied it and they're like, oh my God, this is actually really good, the person that was incredibly skeptical now becomes a tremendous resource. Just in normal life. Does this make sense? You sure? I know it's a little weird at 9:15 on a Saturday morning to think about this stuff. But what's different? Are you not somebody who's got a full-time job that figured out a major problem in this world? Cindy, have you figured out a major problem in this world?
I learned about it.
Okay, well, whether you learned about it or figured out, like in your life, you figured this out to be true, right? What is the problem?
That I'm stuck.
Okay, and not just you stuck. Are there a significant amount of people stuck? Right, so you figure you've been at a job, you've been in your life for 40 some years, and at the end of this, you've been in your job for 20 years, you're like, oh my God, there's a firing problem. Let's build a solution for the firing problem. You with me? You've been in your life for 40 some years, right? Have you figured out an economic problem? What is the problem?
Well, for me, my economic problem isn't changing, wasn't getting better. It was just flatline, not bad, but
we're stuck. We don't have access to the education and tools and the resources we need to make fundamental changes. Is that a fair assessment of a problem? Right? If Wade looked at the legal business and said, okay, right, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but oh my God, there's a way to aggregate clients and services and all this other stuff, and if all of his time in business said, oh my God, here's a legitimate hole, and he's like, I know that if I solve this hole for the legal community, that would make a tremendous difference for them, and smart people that figured out that they got the same hole, if I could sell the solution to the hole, I'm gonna get rich. So all of a sudden, right? So let's say this was the situation. So what would Wade do? Wade would put together the list of his support system that he'd need, both in business. He's got 10, 12 business owners and go, okay, I don't care what business they're in, but what are the problems and holes that I'm going to face? He talked to 10 or 15 of his lawyer friends and figure out, do you have the same hole? He talked to his support, he talked to his capital, he'd have a list of 25 people in his life that's like, okay, I've been in the legal profession for X amount of years. I figured out this hole. I figured out this solution. I know how to build it. Now I've got to recruit a support system to help me build it and to make sure that this is going to go on. Does that make sense? Well, you did it. In your economic life, you figured out that there's a problem. That you and your family have worked really hard, but you keep repeating the same generation after generation economically based on the fact that as a community, we start over, we focus on actions, we validate from doing it ourselves, and we isolate in chaos. Okay, so we figured out the same problem. You figured out the firing problem. You figured out the legal problem. All we did was figure out of our lives that there's a pretty significant problem. Does this make sense? We figured out a solution. right? Because you can complain about it. We all know those people. That's not what we're talking about. Waiting, oh, there's a hole. This sucks. Oh, this latte. Oh, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. Would someone just please fix it? Do we all know people like that? Yeah, but they're not the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs hears people like that and goes, oh my God, this is a problem for me, but I know this is a problem for 50,000 other people. If we can solve this problem, they'll all pay us to solve it because none of them can figure out how to solve it. Does this make sense? Right? You guys were part of the soccer league. Why? Because there was no place for Melissa to play soccer. Right? There's 3,000 people in the soccer league right now, right? The soccer league was created. Why? From the story you told me, Melissa couldn't play soccer. So there were some boys and there were some folks in the league and stuff like that, and all of a sudden it went, and it's like, well, what can we get her? And boom! Does this make sense? Primerica, your Primerica business is no different than the soccer league, no different than the HR solution fire, no difference. There's no difference. But we think and talk about it differently. When we look at our top 10, when we look at our bullpen, when we look at the folks, we go, who are the people, I don't care how much we talk about it, who are the people that are going to buy or join? But if you're going to go into business, if you have the idea, Cindy, if you and Arturo have the idea, how important would Mandy and Eddie be in your life? If you guys were going to open up an HR division with their experience in business and you have the solution, what's the likelihood of you inviting them over for cocktails and you're like, hey, we're going to do this. Man, I think with your experience, this would be crazy. What's the likelihood of that conversation occurring?
Very.
So the question is, why aren't those conversations occurring? Not critical, we're finding a hole. It's how we think about the business and what we're creating. Look, let's make sure this is perfectly clear. This is not a me versus you conversation. I'm incredibly clear about this conversation because in the last 8 days, I've had this exact conversation with myself 6 times. I figured out a hole. I figured out that Robin and I are working on a couple things over here, and I'm like, okay, we're talking, going, okay, who do we need in our corner? Where are we going to go? And the list went over here. And then I went, interesting that I don't have this list over here. We talk about it. We talk about the idea. We talk about the concept. We talk about a lot of this other stuff. But there's a handful of people in my life that I'm not talking about the business because I'm waiting for this room to be more successful. And it got me wondering, why am I doing that? And what I realized is I have my old Primerica hat still on. I got Sandlot, deep. Hey, look, every time we enter into a new area, I always tell you, I throw my hat on and go, oh, shit, because it's a brand new experience. I know how to run a Primerica 1.0 business. I know how to run, let's recruit your friends and family. I know how to get your list together. I know how to go pitch the authority. I know how to get them excited. I know how to recruit them and write them up. We're shifting to ownership, to entrepreneurs. It's a different mindset. Is this making any sense at all? Part of what this shift has to be is, why are you here? How enthusiastic are you? If you were going to solve the soccer, right? If you're going to solve the HR, if you're going to solve whatever it is, right? There's a party that's like, oh, that absolute, we found it. This enthusiasm and excitement about, and when we share it, do you have to be incredibly clear? No. You're going to get clear. And you're going to get clearer and clearer and clearer. But you know, because of your life experience, that this is a real problem. Cindy, if you discovered a firing solution, you've had to deal with people coming and firing and going, the HR and all of that stuff, right? You've had to deal with all of that stuff. Is that a pleasant experience to deal with? If you had figured out a solution to it that you thought was legitimate, real, and scalable, where it could be around the world, because there's millions of people like you that sit in major corporations and major companies, big, small, medium, that have to deal with that issue, and that issue sucks. Right? So if you were like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. If you had that moment and there was a way to build a company around it that would economically change your life by providing a better firing solution for other people around the world, how excited would you be?
Really excited.
If you didn't have all the details ironed out, would that stop you from being excited?
No.
No, because you're never going to have all of the details ironed out, because the next time you enter in, there's going to be, well, how do you bill for it? How do you receive for it? How do you charge for it? How do you market it? There's 50 things that go to building a company. But when you're in that restaurant a little bit buzzed and you're talking about, oh my God, we're totally going to do this. Are you worried about any of those things at that moment? No, you're like, we know there's a real problem. We know there's a real solution. We know the solution we have is real. And when we get people to see this solution, their life's going to be better and we're going to be rich. Isn't that happening around the world? Aren't those what bars are for? Right? Have you never had those kind of, like, is this making sense? So now I want you to take that mindset and I want you to put your Primerica business on top of it and figure out that there's an alignment problem. We have a company where the market is essentially everybody. Is everybody more than the lawyers in Los Angeles? Yes. Is everybody more than the HR directors of companies that have between 25 and 200 employees? Everybody's more than those people, right? So when we have a market of everybody, that's a pretty good market. Does everybody get negatively affected by firing people? No, some people enjoy it. So they don't need to streamline. Does everyone need to save and invest to protect their family? So I don't care what your personality or disposition is. If people are counting on you, if you're completely selfish, you need to save money because you want to eat. If you're completely selfless, you need to protect your family in case you die. But if you're like most people, you're going to end up saving some money and protecting your family. Do we satisfy those two needs? So if we were sitting in a bar and there was no Primerica, it had never existed, but we were friends and we'd done a research project, right? I used to be in research forever and I looked at all this other stuff, right? And you and I just kind of sitting there and we're like, you're like, being a lawyer, I don't know. And I'm like, dude, think about this. What if there was a way, 70 million, right? This product, to be able to go through and to be able to do it in a system where we could get it out, where we could have part-timers, where we don't have to pay them. We don't have to have overhead. We don't have to have liability. We don't have unemployment insurance. We have to deal with the responsibilities of that, right? We can create passive income for them. So regardless of what's going on in their life, right? If they pop in, they come, they handle their stuff. If they go, they pop, right? We create this entire experience. Right, we got this company that's going to carry the burden and the responsibility of the products and the responsibilities of the liability because we don't have the expertise in that. And all we got to do is get this story to the people. Primerica never existed, but we were sitting in a bar drinking, having this conversation. How do you think you might feel at the end of that night? A little excited? Is it any different than building the soccer program? Is it any different than building the HR division or the score? Right? Is it any different? Right? The people who built the referral recommendation source system with some of the stuff there's a guy sitting in a bar there's guys sitting in a bar going, dude, if we could find a way where people could ask these questions and then we could farm them out to people that could go through and we could solve that, holy shit, people would pay us for that. This would be unbelievable. We could do it at every market around the country. Man, this is going to be unreal. They were sitting in a bar drunk. Probably. And then went, okay, how do we do it? What do we do? We don't drink enough, right?
Wayne's like, oh, you know. That's not very nice.
Is this, are you guys getting what I'm talking about? Because one of the biggest dilemmas that we've got is us thinking and feeling like we're actually entrepreneurs, like you're actually creating something. But there is no Montana and Associates. It doesn't exist. There's no Castro and Associates yet. It doesn't exist. There's Primerica. But Team Access right now is this group. Essentially, does Team Access exist in Primerica's world? No, there's like 9 of us. Like, they're like, oh, that's cute. We're a hamburger stand in Venice. We got a great burger. We got a good system. And we satisfy an eclectic group's need. But is In-N-Out worried? But we've got amazing hamburgers. What if we found a way to make hamburgers and French fries combine 250 calories? And they tasted better than In-N-Out or the Habit. And they were combined 250 calories, and there was no aspartame. There was no negatives, like there was farm organic raised, right? And just we had a magic way of doing it that we could distribute to scale. Tasted great and combined hamburger, French fries, and a chocolate shake, 250 calories. If we're sitting in a bar talking about this, I'm like, Cindy, I think we found it. Man, I know none of us have any restaurant experience, but man, we just want some passionate people that want to get this story out because America's obese. And everyone says, well, we got to eat better. And you know what? We're not going to. So we have to figure out how to make the food we're going to eat healthy. So we got a hamburger and French fry and chocolate shake that we figured out how to get 250 calories that fills people up. And in the next 6 months, we're going to have pizza at 150 calories a pie. Hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll figure out beer. And if we get those 3 things, man, it's going to be ridiculous. And we just want to change the world. If that was, like, we're sitting in there talking, and how many of us are like, oh, dude, okay, so what do we got? I got no restaurant experience. Doesn't matter. You got life-changing experience. Let's go. We want to put the people in our life. This is where we want to go. Would it change the way you think about what you think about? We're working on some things in this room, right? We're learning what the problem is and what the solution is and what the methodology is and what the focus is. And we're learning how to talk to each other and how to communicate. We found some pretty significant roadblocks that we're maneuvering through. And guess what? We're gonna get this stuff down. And then there's gonna be the next set of adventures that we're gonna figure out. And we're just gonna keep moving the ball and keep fleshing all this stuff out. My question is, 1, do you feel like you found it? Look, it's Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, you're all here. There's something in your life that you want different. Can we all agree that we don't have enough measured success to just attract people that don't really want to be here, but they feel like they have to be here because their life's going to suck if they're not here just because they're not making enough money? And so many people are kicking so much ass that even if they don't want to do this, they got to do this because they want to kick some ass in their life. Like, can we all agree we don't have that measure of that level of success quite yet? So if you're here, there's something you want to do with your life. Now look, we're gonna have it. Look, within the next period of time, we're gonna have so many damn people that people are like, I don't even want to go, but I got to because it's gonna happen. And that's fine. Let's create to that way. So when you have 1,000 people show up to your meetings, they're like, oh, okay, I gotta go. Because they're like, I made $900 last month and I want to get out of my job. Okay, great. But that's not quite this. So did you find it? And maybe not the end of it. Let's make sure this is perfectly clear. Primerica is not necessarily the landing zone. It could be the stepping stone for you. Then if you had a business that was paying you $80,000 a month, you're 55 years old, you know, 55 years old, making 80 grand a month, that's $1 million a year. You might travel for a bit. And what if you started traveling, and have you done a lot of traveling in your life? Let's say you haven't done a lot of traveling in your life, but you're an entrepreneur. You've learned how to build and grow, and now all of a sudden you spend a year traveling, and you realize every time you go to a city, every time you go to a new place, as a new novice traveler, there's a major hole in the traveling experience for the novice traveler. I don't know what it is, but let's say you're like, God, every time, what should we do? There should be an app for the novice traveler that says, put in the city, and it'll tell you the 4 things to pack, because they're the things you don't think about packing. And so all of a sudden it goes, newbie traveler, boop, and it goes, oh, you're going to Boston. Well, in the springtime, it rains in the middle of the day, so it's important to carry a hat. You wouldn't know to bring a hat in Boston if it rains in the middle of the day for that. And you're like, every time I go, I never have my hat, or I never have my shoes, or I need the little covers, or whatever it is. And you're like, oh my God, I got $1 million a year income. Right? We're 55 years old. We got a great Primerica business over here that's killing it, crushing it, that's going through. But you know, we travel a lot now, and I never know what are the 4 things I need when I go to a city. Could that happen? And now all of a sudden you're at dinner one night and there's a CTO, there's a guy that's the technical officer that just sold out for his company, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm looking for the next project, and you're sitting in France because he's rich and you're rich, but you're not rich. You just got a lot of money. Y'all understand the difference? And he's got a lot of money, and but he's like, I'm just looking for and you're like, God, it always bugs me. And Arturo and I keep saying, there needs to be something we can do. And he's like, I could totally do that. And now all of a sudden you're sitting over wine talking about newbie traveler. And 6 months later, you got it. And 2 years later, you sell it to Google for $10 million. Who knows? Well, how could that happen? It's about access. Some might want to, there's someone in the room, someone that says, man, I'm not even going to travel. I'm going to be the next Art Williams. Great. So your business is, I'm going to be in 4,000 cities. Fantastic. Some it's a landing zone, some it's a stepping stone, some it's a momentary thing, like whatever. I'm not naive enough to believe that everyone we recruit is going to stay with Primerica forever and make $1 million. That's not our game plan. We want 10,000 gaps. You understand? If we have 10,000 gaps, that's a whole bunch of people who looked at the opportunity and said, no, thank you, but I'll take some passive income. Got you dreaming a little bit, huh? Do you realize that that's what you have your hands on? You found it. But we're trying to get so good and clean, and how do we, and I don't know if they'd be interested, and I don't know if they need the product, and I don't know, but that's not what you would do if you were starting a business. The reason we don't go see people until we're licensed is it gives us a period of time to get people to understand what it is we're talking about, and then when we go tell our story, it gives somebody the ability to learn how to communicate. What do you think, Omar?
That blue shirt in the back.
How do you think about your opportunity? Why are we spending so much time on the language and what we say and how we say it? Because what you don't have is 20 years experience in this kind of business. Cindy wouldn't have to spend, if you were going to create a new, like you've been around Windows and organization structure, if you and Victor are like, oh my God, I've been watching these engineers, I've been watching these protocols, I've been watching this, there's a better way. And y'all went, man, if we did this and this and that, like you know the language. You know the structure, you know the language. You wouldn't have to spend any time learning the language because you know the language. So you'd be able to communicate to your support system because you already know the language. You might not know marketing language, or you might not know distribution language, or you might not know technology language, but you know the essence of what you're doing language. That's what we're trying to get dialed in quickly. When you look at your support system, when you look at your list of people you wrote down, how many of them have any idea what you're working on? How many of them know you're doing Primerica and have no idea what you're working on?
Yeah, it feels like they have a preconceived idea of what I'm doing.
And where do we think that preconceived idea might have come from?
Hearing about Primerica from other people.
Okay. So some people will have been exposed to this. What other things could create the preconceived idea? What we tell them. And the combination of the two. If I have an expectation of you and you behaved in alignment with that expectation, do you have to tell me anything if your behavior is in alignment with the expectation that I have? It just validates it without you saying it. And that's not good or bad, it just is. Look, I'm learning how to think about Primerica as a truly entrepreneurial opportunity. I've been here 19 years and I'm still just figuring it out. At a high level. Conceptually, I understand it, but the applied, the premise, this conversation, we've never had this conversation, have we? Is this conversation framed a little bit different in your mindset of what you're doing and what you're building than anything we've ever talked about? Yeah. Well, if we've only been coming from this standpoint for the last 4 years, and you already knew the lineup because you were born and raised in it, you already knew the problem and the solution because you were born and raised in it, you already knew the entrepreneurial opportunity because you were born and raised in it, do you think your choices, decisions, and conversations will be a little bit different than they are right now? So then your interactions are different, your mindsets are different, your conversations are different, your reactions are different, your responses are different, your resources are different, your everything is different. Oh, I've heard of Primerica. Dude, let me tell you what I'm doing. Why? Oh, man, there's 4 different firing apps out there. No, you don't understand. Man, there's 9 different places that people aggregate their legal stuff to be able to go through. No, you don't understand. Isn't that what you'd say? If you figured out how many people have tried to reinvent the window system in the last couple 100 years? Well, let's say you figured it out. Wouldn't they go, oh, we tried this and that? And you'd be like, no, you don't understand. And would you go, just screw you, you don't understand? Or would you go, no, let me explain this. I want you to look, because I want your feedback. You're important to me. It's important that you see this difference. If there's a hole that I'm missing, shit, tell me. Because you're not scared to say, if there's a hole I'm missing, shit, tell me. Because why? Because you know there's no hole. And if there is, it's in the explanation. Isn't that what you do? Is that how you feel about your Primerica business? But there is no Ponce & Associates. It's a company that doesn't exist yet. It doesn't exist. Martinez & Associates doesn't exist yet. So it's a company that's waiting to be birthed. The true giant in Primerica is yet to be recruited. Because they will come, he or she, they will come from our organization. There's literally zero doubt in my mind that 20 years from now, the 10 biggest people in the history of Primerica will come from this organization. And that's not ego. That's not, oh, I'm a great leader. That's, we're running a distribution company and we're competing with a sales organization. And when we get this thing streamlined and really understand how to cultivate the entrepreneur and the strategic partnership with a problem of as big as it is and a solution as real as it is and a market as big as it is, if we take this thing to the nth degree, no one can touch us. It's just math. We built this to never start over again. If we have 10,000 gaps, 10,000 people that make only income off of their managed accounts that come to one meeting a year because all they're doing is overriding and getting compensated on their personal accounts and the accounts of the people that they know and care about in a truly part spare time support environment. If we pull that single thing off, the top 20 income earners in the history of Primerica come from our organization. Can we pull it off? Shit, I have no idea. I don't know if I'm that focused. The great news is, Cindy, I don't actually have to be that focused. You know what I need to do? Find a bunch of pretty focused people. And realize we'll find a few that are like, I want to be that couple. And then we just override. Does that sound fun? I gotta have to be focused for a period of time. Why? Because I think that we found the best solution to the window industry that the window industry's ever seen. I believe we found the solution for 70 million families. How about you? Should we build Gomez and Associates? Doesn't exist yet. We're sitting in a barn. drinking a nice glass of wine, dreaming about what's possible. Because we recognized, oh my gosh, we found it. Look, if we're going to run and build an incubator, for lack of a better phrase, this is the hurdle. Take non-traditional entrepreneurs and give them the spirit, strength, and resources to build companies. So one of the things I'd like to do for about 10 or 15 minutes is we've had a lot of people changing and growing and stuff like that. And so I want to open it up. And this might be 2 minutes, this might be 20 minutes, right? There isn't a thing. But part of our business, and this is, I cannot express this any clearer. Maybe I can and I'll get better. But I can't be any stronger about it. Our business is about influence. And it's about impact. It's about the words we use and the connections that we can make. Just like if you don't like people, building strategic partnerships is going to be a problem. If you can't get clear in expressing what you're talking about, it'll be very, very hard to build an organization of people that have to influence people. Does that make sense? And so part of what we need to do is realize that it is a skill to be able to tell a story. It's a skill to be able to highlight what's important, to be able to assess, here's the 1 or 2 points that are important. Here's how I want to convey it. Here's what I want the audience to receive, or the people I'm talking to be able to receive, so that we can build, because it's going to increase. And the reason why I'm having this conversation is, 1, I might want them to learn something. 2, I want them to understand that I know it, right? I'm going to add value to increase credibility both for myself and for them. Cindy, this is about influence. The people on that list, if they understood the way you understand, is there any way they could be anything but supportive?
I don't think so.
No, they love you, and the problem and solutions are real, right? So the only thing the only gap is our ability to have the correct mindset and the ability to articulate. Okay? So one of the things I want to do is open it up. And if anybody in the last 2 or 3 weeks has learned anything about themselves, about their business, about their growth, right? We'll almost have an altar call of sorts, but just one by one, if anyone wants to, raise your hand. And I want you to come up and tell a 30-second, 3-minute story about what's happened in your life, in your business, in your profession, in your experience that has anything to do with the growth of your business, what you've learned, or what's going on. Is there anybody that would like to share? Sure.
So what I've learned in the last couple of days is when the question was, what do I consider myself here? What do I consider myself, a business owner, etc.? Well, one of the things, what I came up with is I consider myself an example. Because I started somewhere, I started over here not knowing what to do, and I got a hold of someone that showed me tools and education on what to do. Now I'm here. Now I feel that I could be an example for a lot of other people just like me, the way I was when I started, when I first heard about Primerica. I didn't know anything about what I was supposed to do financially, but now I do, so I know some things. So I have a little title on me today as I'm an example.
That's awesome.
So, thanks.
How many of you know exactly what she's talking about? You could feel and understand. That makes sense. How much better does it feel you being able to explain something like that way?
it feels like they're my words, it's my story, it's what I've been through. I didn't learn that from anyone, I just learned by living it.
Perfect. Anybody else?
I learned a lot for the last, not even the 2 to 3 weeks, in the last 3 months. I never thought that I would figure it out what the and the lineup, and I have tons of paper. I spent a couple of hours at home writing over and over and over, and till my hands doesn't feel like writing no more. My thumb gets like stiff. And I say, I don't care. I gotta get this done. It's my homework. I exposed myself to this, and I want to get it over. And now that he was asking, did we found it? I think I do, but I'm just like a little tiny step away. Because I was thinking of the question that we had the other day, one of the listeners gave us on Wednesday night. What do you think of yourself? What I think of myself is like, I kept thinking, what am I? What am I doing? Why am I here? I figured out, I feel like, and I was craving a cup of coffee on the way home. It takes me like 30 minutes to get home. And I was craving a cup of coffee that night, and I said, no, it's gonna keep me awake. I need something to relax. Because I was burning when I was driving home. And I said, a cup of tea. And that brought it to my mind, okay, I'm about a tea in front of a boiling cup of water, waiting for that little step to dip myself in that boiling cup of water so I can keep flavor, color, and scent to 7 minutes on the other side.
That was awesome. Anybody else?
All right, so in a way it's about the business, but in a way it's about me personally. You taught me one of the most important things I think I've ever possibly learned. Even when you started talking about the difference of mindsets, the way people think, between what the successful rich people and us, what we think. It's just, well, basically, there's a lot of things that we're used to, that we know, that we've always known, and then we find out the opposite is true. And all of a sudden you look at everything and it's like, wait, I thought this was this. I thought that was that. And there's a lot of things. Like, for example, while I've never been one of those people that make a scene in like restaurants or something, it's like, oh, how dare you not work for your minimum wage when I'm just here for 30 seconds. I've never treated those people like that. But I've never made the connection that they're actually, they're just there. Vending machine is there, coffee machine is there, the cashier is there. And then that's all I care about. Until my brothers and sisters started working in those service industries. All of a sudden it's like, wait, all of a sudden they're not just a machine, they're a person. And I can't make that connection that I used to make in the past anymore. It's the same with that. The whole, I want to do this myself because when I do it, I didn't. No one cares. It's done or it's not done. No one cares if I put 10 minutes into it or 30 hours. If it's done, it's done. And that's one of those mindsets that we get into so easily because we know how much it took to get there. They just know that you're there. So I've been talking with a lot of people online or something, people that I've never met, probably never will, from Finland, from England, from, all over the place. And that mentality is always there. And for them, it's, oh, this is where I am at. And you can see it from a distance and you're like, okay. So my parents too, talk with them. And it's so easy for them to be stuck in that mindset of, it's been working, so why not? Until, I talk with them and I'm like, this is where you're at and this is where you could be. So what's the difference? At the end of the day, you have either the same thing or you don't, and you've had time to do work on something else, or you spent all your time working on this one. So, that's one of the things that I've been thinking of, like, when I wasn't here. It's just making that connection, and, it's just one of those mindsets I can't get back into. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Perspective.
So that was fantastic. As a point, you guys understand, Victor, you've been here once in the last 3 months?
1 month. I missed 3 meetings, but that's it.
Okay, the last couple, okay.
Yeah.
That work he did, not here. Why is that important?
Well, I think as you're exposed to the problem, then the seed will just grow on its own. You'll start thinking of other possibilities or other, problems that you want out there. And so you start creating this whole map of what can happen. And I believe that's what happened.
We're in a for-profit business, right? Is that a fair assessment? We're talking about
What's that? What is that?
a for-profit. I'm here to make money. I'm not here to only make money, but I'm here for profit. I'm here to make a significant, right? If we solve your fired issue and that was to go through, you're rich. I'm here to get rich. You here to get rich? Some of us here to get rich. I think that's cool. The idea to say, when I told you you're gonna make $80,000 a month, you should have seen the smile on your face. Because it's real. The numbers are here, it's just a math problem, right? I love the growth that Victor just showed. But y'all understand that my business grew with him not here? Do you know that, David? Victor, he stood up here and said, I can't go back. Do y'all understand that? I don't know if Victor's going to be in Primerica forever. But you know what I know? Victor's going to be affected by the 4 principles and the impact of what we're doing forever. Victor's smart, articulate, and a good communicator. Victor's going to be successful at whatever he chooses to be successful at. But one of the most important building blocks of his success is his ability to articulate the 4 principles. Do you think at some point his success is going to add value to what we're constructing? Now, I'd love it to be here. I believe it could be. I believe there's a huge impact. I believe all of that stuff. But you guys didn't feel bad. You had to go and come back. Did you feel bad when you had to come back? You guys understand? I've never had someone be gone for 2.5 months, walk back in, get a hug, and not feel bad. Ever. That's what we built. I'm incredibly proud of the relationship and the connection and the environment we've got. That's probably, to date, 20 years from now, it might not be one of the more proudful things, but to date, it's one of the most things because I know that that's the change that I've made. This might sound obnoxious, and I don't mean this to be obnoxious, but that's because of the changes I've made. Not just because of the person Yadira is. I've had a lot of people go and come back. The commonality was me. Does that make sense? If I've got 20 people go and come back, or want to come back, and they feel bad every time they come back, or they're embarrassed of this and that, you understand that's me and the culture I created? That's not them. I'm proud of the culture we're creating. I'm proud of the space and the response. I'm proud of the ability to reach out. I'm proud of the conversations and the emails we've had. I'm proud of the fact that I haven't been trying to get Yadira back. I've created a space for Yadira to fit this in her life because at this point, that's the role of what this is. I'm incredibly proud of that's walking the talk of what we've created. The reason it's valuable is because Yadira and Victor's business grew when they weren't here. And so if we don't have a safe place for them to walk back into, we don't get a benefit from their growth when they're not here. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. Okay. So, the next part of this conversation is what we're building. The ability to articulate what we're building. Okay. You guys have all seen this on AAA'z night. Couple of just reference points on this. Why do we lock in allies first? Why do we? Why is that the most important thing?
You can't get into the second step without having that base, that foundation first.
Guys, you got to be able to explain that. It's a business. This is a building business philosophy. If you're going to sit down and go, you should be able to explain. We should be able to explain why do we lock in allies? Because if they don't understand and support, I've never had anyone say, what you do sucks. I don't know anybody that wants it, but I'm in. Ever. So why would I try to get someone in before we get them to understand and support what we're doing, get them emotionally involved with the girls so they get them actively involved with what we're doing? That make sense? Cindy, as fun as it stood up here, as it felt for you to stand up here and to talk about your title as an example and that, like, because you've worked on that language over the last couple of days, haven't you? You've worked on this word, so it felt good to say, right? It felt like, I think this is clear. I think this is clean. I think that the people that are hearing me will understand. That was fun to communicate, wasn't it? I want us, my goal for us is to get that clear on lots and lots of these topics. Because now you're not reaching for, you're just talking. Okay. Why are we building gaps?
Is it because of all the folks that are going to be retiring in the next, what is it, 19 years?
10,000 people every day for the next 19 years. Yeah. So that allows us, this is a market that this group can serve. But Primerica wants RVPs. You're going to go to the convention and you're going to hear the conversation is about getting to RVP, getting RVPs, getting everyone to RVP. It's only and solely about RVP. And I keep talking about 10,000 gaps. It's a different philosophy. It's not a little distinction, it's enormous. Why do we want gaps?
You could have more gaps in RVPs.
Lots more. Look, if you go into an appointment with somebody who's got $110,000 in an old 401k, they're 48 years old and they're making X dollars and they're struggling, but they don't want to do the business. They don't want to do the business. They genuinely don't want to do the business. But they're excited about the managed accounts. What should you have an opportunity to do?
Get licensing, management.
Recruit them. But Brett, they don't want to do the business. I know. So don't have them do the business. They got $155,000. If someone has $155,000 of assets that you roll over, Or should you be on a shadow of a doubt? What should you do? It's hard. You're right. They're 48 years old. They're 48 years old with $110,000. What does that mean? So what's it mean?
It means by the time they retire, they could literally be making passive income on that.
Are they going to be able to retire? If they're 48 years old and they have $150,000 saved, they're not making 30 grand a year. Is that fair? They're probably making $80,000 to $150,000 a year and they're saving. They're 48 years old with $155,000 in assets saved. Are they going to have enough money at 65 to be able to retire? If someone's making $80,000 a year and they've got 17 years left, let's call it 10% rate of return. Let's call it 2.5 doubling periods. So 155 is 300, 300, 600. If they're making $100,000 a year and they have $600,000 in retirement, are they retiring?
Yes.
If you're used to making $100,000 a year, you're 65 years old and you have $600,000 saved. How long before this goes to zero? Is this person ever retiring with that? Guys, go back to the HR. You got to fire. You have the ability to fire. Guys, you understand the resistances that just popped up? We spent the first hour talking about the opportunity you have in your hands, the opportunity to solve the lawyer problem, to solve the window problem. Think about this for a second. Think about the resistances. Think about the construction problems that we have right now. We just spent an hour getting us to think about the fact that we have access to the solution that could solve the problem. Like in our hands. And we're like, you think we should recruit? I have a question. If you don't know you should recruit them, what's the likelihood of you recruiting them? Well, getting the securities license is hard. You're right. It's going to get easier because we're going to get better at it. It's going to get easier because we're going to have more people getting it. It's going to get easier because there's going to be lots of support systems that we can build, because it's one of those, when we've got 1,000 gaps, we're going to have an entire infrastructure built to be able to grow, because that's what we're going to need. So we'll build it. Right now, you're all on the front lines going, God, I can't get my own. How am I going to get other folks to get it? But you're using that as a foundation for. But I got a question. What's harder? Working until they die because they're not going to have enough money saved, or getting their securities license, finding $500,000 a year for the next 10 years, and having $5 grand a month in passive income come here to subsidize their retirement? Is everyone going to do it? Should everyone? Yes. The gap is a solution to a problem. Well, how do we know that people are going to be there? Because 70 million families are stuck. Like when you start with this premise, you got a lot of latitude on a lot of things. Are any of you feel that? My goal for part of today is for you to feel some of your resistance, some of your sticky points, so that you can start going, oh, This is affecting how I communicate. This is affecting how I think about this. This is affecting how I look at my support system. This is affecting how I talk to my support system. This is affecting what I'm trying to get from my support system. If 70 million families are stuck, you don't need to have an objective of recruiting and writing up your support system. They will self-identify. If they don't self-identify, you didn't communicate well. Well, that doesn't sound very nice. If Yadira's got a great Windows solution and she goes to a competitor and tries to tell them the Windows solution and they don't see it, and she knows that it actually solves their problem and they don't see it, there was a breakdown in communication. They chose not to hear it. She couldn't articulate it. Those are the problems. If she walks out and goes, "You're stupid," she's never getting back in the door. If she walks away going, "Oh, they kept thinking," and we've all done this. You ever had a conversation you knew was dialed in, you knew it was really good, and then like an hour later you saw, "Oh, I completely forgot that section." And so people were trying to make a decision on A, B, C, Q. And you're like, "Well, where did the A, B, C, D, F? You forgot E." And you're like, "Oh," and they're like, "No, this doesn't make sense." And you're convinced you explained E because you always explain E. Why would you not explain E? But you just forgot E. You ever had that happen? Part-timers. We build with part-timers. We have a goal. Build the single best part-time opportunity in the history of American business. Well, what's the difference between a gap and part-timer? They're actively part-time. You can make $500 to $1,000 a month. You're a teacher and you love being a teacher, and you can make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. Would that make your life a little easier? Here's the dilemma that we face. We want a part-time opportunity. What's one of the most important components to a part-time opportunity?
Having a job.
Well, there's that. But what does this need to be able to do? This needs to be able to make money. If no one in this room believes that you can make $500 a month part-time without wrecking your life, are you going to recruit people that need to make an extra $500 a month to do the business? No. We have a problem. See, Primerica becomes the cover fire for the part-timer. It's Primerica's job. Hey, a guy is a fireman, loves being a fireman. His wife's getting licensed. He loves being a fireman. You know what I talked to him about? Let Primerica be your cover fire. What do you mean? Well, you could either work a couple extra shifts a month, or you could build your Primerica business, be home for those extra shifts, make the same money so you can spend the quality time with your family and not have to be gone for that long, because your job gives you your experience and your lifestyle, and Primerica gives you your cover. Primerica allows you, right, for the picture of what this is, right, for the visual representation, right? We've all seen movies, right? There's a car, here's a door. You're sitting here, you got to get to this door, and there's two snipers here. They're trying to shoot you. What's cover fire? Someone stands up and says, "I'll cover you, get to the other car." They get up and they start shooting. Are they trying to kill these people? No, Victor, what are they trying to do?
Make sure you don't get shot.
Trying to make sure that you don't get shot. What's the easiest way to make sure you don't get shot? Make sure they're not shooting when you're running. if I shoot here, this guy has to duck. Doesn't he, Cindy? Well, if he ducks, I can run from there to there. Or you can run from there to there. That make sense? That's what cover fire is. Primerica's job for our part-timers is to provide cover fire. Did you know that? It's not to convince people that are part-time that they should go full-time. Shouldn't we have a place where part-timers can come and go and do what they need to do and take care of what they need to take care of? You're part-time right now, Ron. Right? You're like, look, if I can learn this, the system's going in, if I can make an extra $500,000, if I can fund college, if I can do this, look, maybe full-time makes sense. But right now, I got a good job, I got things, I got situations to take care of. Let me do what I got to do. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. You learned while you were gone. You cultivate, develop. What we need to do is get your market dialed in a little bit cleaner and better so that if you got to take time, you got to do the stuff you got to do, you still know how to move your market so that when you come back, the relationships are in place so that we can subsidize that, because this is helping 3 to 4 families, 6 families a quarter. So if every quarter we develop 3 to 6 people that can see us because they know the story, someone can do that. We've got our part-timers to be full-timers. We got folks, now your job becomes cover fire. Wait, part-time is Primerica's cover fire? Part-time, full-time, my job's cover, what? See, Cindy, at some point would say, I'd like to not have my job. Well, Cindy's job allows her to learn the skills. You don't have to make money in order to eat, do you? You don't have to be incredibly successful Primerica yet in order to take care of your family. So you know your income takes care of your family, so now you have the ability to learn and change and grow and ask and learn how to articulate and get your licenses. You got to learn how to do all this stuff. Your job's paying you to learn how to be an entrepreneur. And then we've got our entrepreneurs, our team owners. We're going to attract folks that come in and they see it from the word go. They still might be part-time or full-time, but they're just a different mind. They're like, oh, I get it. They talk about expecting growth, and it's just, and they devour the resources and change and grow. And there's nothing wrong with, I didn't mean to put this all over here, but there's nothing wrong. They're all valuable pieces. Primerica cares about this group. And their goal is to turn all of these people into here. Look, we're going to have a lot of regional vice presidents that run little offices and make a couple $100,000 a year, have a good quality of life. You understand the levels? Like the idea of going into 10 cities in 5 years, the ability to expand and grow and trade and travel and all of that other stuff on that other, like there's going to be end degree. Like that's a serious decision that you might go, shit, I don't want that. Y'all with me? Give me 10,000 of these, 20,000 of these, 50,000 of these, and give me 1,000 of these. Pay $50 million those numbers. This is our business. Now, if we know that this is our business, just like the lineup, this allows us to figure out who we're talking to and how we're talking to them. Question, what do part-timers need? The ability to make extra money. How many part-timers do we have on our team right now? I'd say most of the folks in this room are in this category. Why? Because no one's making any money. Elvira did. That's a nice check, huh? Elvira spent 2 hours on Sunday, made like $400. It's not bad. Been licensed a month, goes out, helps a couple families. Tony be licensed in the next week. When he does that, he's probably got 4 or 5 families. He's gonna make probably $1,000 in the month of June. That's fun. Cindy's looking at that list going, maybe we should tell the story, right? People are, Cindy's got 2 families we're gonna help in June. Right? He's gonna make $400 or $500. It's gonna be impactful. Can you guys understand how fun it's gonna be when we have 3? David's got a couple folks when we have 3 or 4 people making $200, $300, $400, $500 in the month of June. Like that's fun. Month of July, imagine having 8 people making $500, $600, $700. That would be fun. But what's the difference in this room is this group of people is helping us create the business. I've got 8 or 10 people that are part-time that you guys never see. Why? I don't want you to meet them. No, they're getting licensed. What's one of the most important components we need for great part-timers? The belief that they can make money. You guys know we're going to build this, right? But on a scale of 1 to 100, how many of us believe that everyone in the room can make $500 in the month of June? The number goes down right now. Because what we're doing is we're creating the culture. Does it make any sense? So I'm building a stable, and you're going to have to build a stable of part-timers. And let them be who they are. Make them feel special, make them good, right? Create the space. Why? Because as we build the culture here, there's a space to pull them. Not to full-time, but to plug in and to grow. The value of our Primerica business is the ability to make an extra $500 to $1,000. If we can't provide that value, why would they take advantage of any other guy? But that's not a problem because we have us creating culture. Does this make sense? Cindy, if we had 15 people, 18 people, 30 people making, $800 a month part-time, not wrecking their life, just part-time, some of them were here and some of them were here, and you looked at some of the folks that you know that needed to make an extra $800 a month, would it be easier for you to talk to them about taking advantage of the opportunity? Yeah. Now the dilemma is, we found the solution. So now what do you do? The cleaner you get at understanding this, you actually found the greatest part-time opportunity in the history of the world, and the infrastructure's in place. You found the solution. So now do we have to wait to get them started? If you actually found it. I got a bottle of tequila in there. I feel like I should hand out shots.
Shut this meeting on Saturday.
Is this making any sense? We can explain the problem. We can explain the solution. We know the only methodology that this thing can actually be done. We know what then we have to focus on. We know the tools that we've got. We know the opportunities we're talking about. And we know what we need. The cleaner we get at understanding this piece of paper, the stronger our business is. But you're growing your company. You found it. training camp as well. So this is some questions to be able to ask and to be able to figure out how to talk. What kinds of conversations? How do we have conversations with folks just in our business, in our life? Guys, if we know what we're building, which is this, we know the way we build it is our line. And our lineup is made up of our bullpen, our now list, and our then list. Okay? Look, ultimately, these are the people we know now, right? These three areas are a finite group. Tony has only been raised on this. He didn't do a different top 10. He didn't know anything else. He's dialed us in. He's got the SD. He's figuring this out. 2 years from now, how many think there's a really good chance that Tony has actively cultivated a significant percentage of these three areas? This is where our growth is. Because it's unlimited. We've got to get really good at developing our strengths and our skills to do this. But Cindy, the conversation that you had today, right? Victor, the conversation you had today, you're going to get really good at having those conversations with people at a party, at a potluck, at a beach, at a ball game, at a kids' event. And you're going to realize that you have the opportunity to make tremendous impact and value in people's lives. And the phrase you're going to get really good at is, man, we should probably know each other. Because if you get good at the conversations that we're talking about having, and you get into conversations with good people, and you say, man, we should probably know each other, didn't you just grow your lukewarm market? Because then you can get their phone number, their email, you can send them an email, man, it was great meeting you. I was talking about blah, 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 and over the next 2 or 3 months, couldn't you move them over here? And couldn't you teach 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000 people to do the exact same thing? Because we're going to build the greatest part-time opportunity in the history of the world. That's the business that you have. I'm going to challenge you to think about how you think about what you're doing. I want you to think about that list of people that you put together and ask yourself, what in God's name is stopping you from going and having a real talk with them? Not about convincing them that Primerica is valuable, because that's not your business. If you were going to go, if you figured out the window solution, you're not going to them to convince them that you found the window solution. Are you? You're going and talking about, oh my God, I'm taking for granted I figured this out because you're not an expert in windows, Mr. and Mrs. Friend. But you understand business or organization or structure. If I did this, if this happens, there are questions and all this other stuff, or something's happening. Ultimately, someone's got to buy the windows. So sales is an important component in the company, right? But is it the most important part when you're creating your business? No. We have an opportunity to shift how we think about how we're talking to the people in our lives and how we're thinking about who they are. That's what I want for us. I want us to get good at being able to explain problems. The access gap is real. But for me, I always had friends that just felt like they were walking between raindrops. They just knew certain things that I never knew. Probably crazy. And guess what? I also realized there's things that I just knew that other people didn't know. And it didn't make any sense to me why they didn't know it. And I realized, oh, I've been exposed to it. Things you've been exposed to and understand, you're better at than things you haven't. Cindy, in the last couple of days, you've actively worked on explaining what you explain, right? So you're better at it. Nothing's changed in the last 3 days about your world, has it? No. You're just now cleaner at explaining it. Because there was an opportunity for you to get better and a forced opportunity in an environment to learn how to express yourself in a clean way. Right? You see the difference? That's a big difference. That's what we're talking about providing. Is access to this shift. So, there are some incredibly fun things that are coming. Remarkably fun. I would like for us to put a lot of this language stuff to bed so that we can get to the business of actually communicating it from strength. But I'm incredibly proud of you, and I'm excited. Cindy, this is a different business than you thought it was. There are people in your lives that are going to hear this. You brought a big, I saw you're a big old list of people that should probably hear this story. Why you're doing this and what you're doing. We should probably put a plan together and see it, so we can tell this story cleanly. So I'll be around. Anyone has any questions? Let's chit chat. But guys, let's blow this thing out. We'll be here next Saturday. Let's grow this thing. And then AAA'z night in 2 weeks. Or not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. Love y'all.